Got something to say? Get in on the conversation at 415-915-2291. That's 415-915-CALL-1.
Welcome to Conspiracies Against Wellness with your host, Janelle Elgaway.
Good evening. Welcome to Conspiracies Against Wellness. I'm your host, Janelle Elgaway. August is Gastroparesis Awareness Month. The ribbon or color is lime green. If you'd like to help spread awareness, please light a green candle and post it on CAUSE Twitter account or Facebook page. Current treatments for gastroparesis are poor, and little is known of this invisible disease today. 1.5 million Americans suffer from gastroparesis in the United States, and out of that number, 100,000 suffer from the most severe cases. A staggering 5 million Americans currently go undiagnosed, and 20% of type 1 diabetics will develop gastroparesis in their lifetime. I'm so excited to have this week's guest on the show. Since I've started Call Nation, I haven't met a community that is so driven, and there's this feeling of urgency to find better treatments. Tomorrow night, guest Laura Schmidt will join us to talk about her personal 16-year journey having gastroparesis and the wonderful advocacy work she has been doing. Today we have Melissa VanHouten with us. If you have a question for Melissa, please call in at 415-915-2291 or call 1. Or you can leave a comment or question on a live stream from YouTube. Melissa was diagnosed with gastroparesis 3.5 years ago. In this short time, she has done some amazing advocacy work for the gastroparesis community. So she was a featurette and a video for iPain Foundation's Music Moves, and she is also a representative for iPain Foundation. She has a book coming out shortly that she co-wrote with award-winning and international best-selling author Linda Fell. It's called Living with Gastroparesis, Real Life Diaries. Welcome, Melissa, to Conspiracy Against Wellness. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Miss Janelle. I'm doing pretty well today.
Awesome. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am a wife and a mother of a beautiful 13-year-old daughter. I'm a former political science instructor and corporate trainer who stays home now. And as you say, in February 2014, I was diagnosed with gastroparesis. So now I am a gastroparesis patient and advocate.
What exactly is gastroparesis?
Well, gastroparesis, the word literally means paralysis of the stomach. And gastroparesis is a digestive motility disorder where the stomach muscles, which are controlled by your vagus nerve, do not work properly to push the food from your stomach into your small intestines. So what happens is, under normal circumstances for a normal person, you will eat and your food will sit in your stomach just long enough for it to sort of break down and then pass into the rest of your digestive tract. But for someone with gastroparesis, that process is delayed. So when we eat, the food sits in the stomach for an abnormally long period of time. Sometimes the delay is minor, and sometimes the delay is very severe, very lengthy. And it results in a lot of symptoms that people don't really think it sounds all that bad. They think, well, your digestion is a little bit slow, your stomach empties slow, that's not that big of a deal. But for those of us who have gastroparesis, it can cause some pretty debilitating symptoms. We get a feeling of fullness right away. If we eat only a few bites, we feel like we can't fit any more food in. We get heartburn or GERD, nausea, vomiting, stomach or abdominal pain. Some of us get bloating. And it can lead to some pretty serious complications like malnutrition, dehydration. We have problems with blood sugar fluctuations sometimes, extreme weight loss. Some of us have esophageal damage from vomiting and from the acid coming up in our throats. Mm-hmm. And just some lovely little problems like that. So it's a little more serious than what you first might think.
Right. Is it genetic? Does it run in families?
It is not genetic, although there is some indication that it does run in families. And I know that sounds odd, but there haven't been a lot of studies done about the genetic component. What we know right now is that it is not genetic, but it probably needs further study. Mm-hmm. There are underlying conditions and causes for gastroparesis that can be genetic, though, like some autoimmune disorders. So if you get that cause, that condition, then you might be more likely to develop gastroparesis because of that. So we do see families with it, even though it's not considered genetic.
Mm-hmm. Do you get neuropathy and stuff like that too? Because when I was talking to Laura about this, she was mentioning that. And now that you're mentioning autoimmune diseases, is there a link between that, or are you not sure about that?
There seems to be a connection between the two, although, not all of us have that. I do not have neuropathy, but I know many people in our support groups do, and there does seem to be some sort of link there.
Okay. So what causes one to get gastroparesis? How does that happen?
Well, there are lots of different causes. It's basically any sort of damage to your vagus nerve or to the muscles, the stomach muscles that cause your stomach to empty. The most well-known cause is diabetes, and about 30% of us with gastroparesis get it from diabetes. You can also develop it from neurological disorders like MS and Parkinson's, connective tissue disorders like scleroderma. Some people get it as a result of botched surgeries. Maybe they were getting their gallbladder removed and the vagus nerve got nicked, and that caused gastroparesis. But the largest category is idiopathic, actually, and they do not know what causes the gastroparesis.
Mm-hmm. And you are idiopathic, correct?
I am idiopathic.
Can you explain what that is, just in case somebody doesn't know what that is?
Yes, idiopathic means that they do not know the cause of your disorder or illness. For me, it's the theory is that I got this as a result from a virus. That is nothing that they can prove in my particular case, but because mine came on kind of suddenly, that's what they theorize for me.
Mm-hmm. So when you get diagnosed with gastroparesis, what type of testing do they do to, for people to diagnose them with this? Is there testing?
There is testing,
okay.
Yes. And a lot of what you undergo are tests that sort of rule out other conditions first, because they want to make sure that you don't have something structurally wrong or some kind of obstruction in your digestive tract that's causing these issues. So they'll do a lot of things like endoscopy, upper endoscopy, colonoscopies. A lot of people have blood work, CT scans, MRI, all sorts of things. But the gold standard for testing for gastroparesis is called a gastric emptying study, or a GES.
Okay.
That's what we usually use to confirm diagnosis. And what they have you do is, this sounds crazy, but I swear this is true. They will have you eat some food mm-hmm. with radioactive material in it.
What?
And then they will take us. Yeah, I know. They told me this in the hospital. I thought it was a joke, but no, it's serious.
What?
And they track you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just a little surprised. Okay.
Yeah, so you eat this food, and then they take a series of images at regular intervals with a gamma camera, and they track the food from your stomach and into your small intestines. And if it's delayed, if you have more than 10% of your food left at the end of 4 hours, then they diagnose you with gastroparesis. That's delayed emptying.
Okay. Does all that radioactive stuff go out of you too? Or has anybody had problems?
I'm hoping it does.
Yeah, I know. That's a little different. Why isn't there more known about gastroparesis? Like, because when I started researching, all the stuff that you gave me, there's not a lot of good treatments really that I could see. I mean, and it just doesn't seem like people really know a lot about it. Why is this Why?
Oh, that's an excellent question, and quite honestly, that's what we ask in our community all the time. Why are we suffering like this, and no one even knows we exist? I don't know if I have a good answer for that. We push for awareness all the time, but it does seem that the doctors, even some gastroenterologists, aren't really aware of gastroparesis. Some of them don't even believe it exists, I think.
Really? Wow.
And I think part of that is probably because the symptoms are so similar to some other disorders, and maybe that's just not the first thing that they look for or think. That's not what they're really trained in, because there aren't that many of us out here, and so it goes overlooked. That's my theory anyway. I have no proof of that, but that's what I think.
Yeah. Well, no, and I mean, that's why I wanted to know your theory, because, you're on, and I mean, I just couldn't find a lot of stuff. So what are the current effective treatments for gastroparesis right now?
Well, unfortunately, there is not any safe, reliable, completely effective treatment for everyone who has gastroparesis. And what we have found is that, one treatment might work for one individual, and it won't necessarily work for another. So the treatments are all over the place. There is no cure, so they work on treating symptoms. A lot of what we get are nausea medications. Medications to help with the pain sometimes if it's really bad, but pain medications slow motility, so they try to avoid those. Yeah. We are told to make dietary changes. There are a couple of what are called prokinetics out there available to us, which help speed stomach emptying. There are Botox treatments. Some people turn to Botox treatments. Some people don't do well with any of the available treatments and have to end up on tube feedings or IV feedings. Some people turn to surgeries like pyloroplasties, pacemaker, electrical stimulator, commonly called pacer, but the doctors don't like that.
Yeah. Is stem cells used at all? Infusions? Have you ever?
I've heard of this treatment being used occasionally. I haven't really read a lot about it, and I haven't seen a lot of people who have had it done, but I have read that there's been some research in that area, and I do actually know a couple of people who have had it done with some success, so that looks to be maybe an upcoming area of research.
Yeah, because I had it a year and a half ago for my neck, because I broke my neck twice and I've had 5 surgeries on it, but my doctor also wanted to follow me with it because I have CRPS too, and honestly, I don't know if it worked, but I could say that my CRPS, I get a lot less flares. I mean, I've been able to go into remission twice this past year, so it's like, I think there is something to it, and if there's neuropathy involved with what you guys have, and possibly, I don't know, you don't know what it would do, but that would be interesting if, people got that, just to see what it would do. I don't think it could hurt you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely some hope there, I think.
Yeah. So has the treatments progressed over the years? Because I know Laura's going to come on tomorrow, and she's had this for 16 years. And I really like the difference that you're newer, and she's had it for quite a while. So we'll be able to, kind of get an understanding of what what your mindset is and what hers is. But over the years, has there been any progression in treatments or better things?
Well, I mean, as I look back over the history, I don't see all that many changes so far in treatments. It seems to me like everything is still very focused on treating symptoms and not on finding a cure. That may be partially because, we may need multiple cures. There's multiple causes, so we may need multiple cures. That may be part of the reason for that. But I do see right now a lot of new research being done. There seem to be a lot of drugs and treatment possibilities now in the pipeline that were not there before. There seems to be a renewed interest in finding something. So I'm very hopeful that we have turned a corner here. There is going to be a new focus on treatments.
Is there like a main drug that you guys have? Because it seems like whenever somebody has a disease or something, there's like that one drug that, it's a go-to for doctors. Do you guys have anything like that?
We have something similar to that, I would say. A lot of people take Reglan, and that is one of our kinetics, and it is supposed to help speed up motility.
Isn't that?
But it has some pretty bad side effects.
I was going to say, doesn't it have a black box warning on it?
Yes, it does have a black box warning.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, our options are that drug, and then there's another one called domperidone, which is also a prokinetic. That is actually, you can only obtain that through a special program from the FDA. So we really don't have any good options there, good safe options there.
Why doesn't the FDA approve that drug? Do you know?
The domperidone?
Uh-huh.
That's a good question. They actually, I think it's been a couple of years ago now, they had a public meeting for patients with digestive disorders, and many of us wrote in and actually showed up at that meeting and pressed them for approval of domperidone, and we seem to be getting nowhere with it. There's a big push by a lot of patient organizations, digestive diseases organizations, to get that done, and they have so far dug in their heels and said no to us.
That's really interesting. So they have approved something that has a black box warning, which, by the way, what happens exactly, is it called Reglan? I forget how to say it. Reglan. What exactly is the problem? Like, what will happen possibly if you take that, and why they have the warning on it?
A lot of people develop tics. I don't know if I can pronounce this correctly, but tardive dyskinesia.
Yes. Yeah.
And they develop facial tics or shaking, Parkinson's-like symptoms.
Like permanently?
And sometimes these effects, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
It's actually the longer you're on the medication, the more your risk of it being permanent. So they tell you when they give it to you, if you start seeing symptoms at all, stop the medication because this could become permanent. But I find that a lot of patients are prescribed this drug in their initial visit and not told of the side effects, not warned about this at all, and leave there knowing nothing.
That's very scary. I mean, I don't understand that at all. So do you feel that the whole person is treated once you're diagnosed? When you're diagnosed, do they have like a team that they set you up with, and do they make sure you're doing okay, and everything else is okay, or how is that?
Oh, Miss Jonelle, I wish I could tell you that is the case. It certainly was not the case for me, and it is not the case for most people that I deal with. I'm sure there are some really, really good situations out there where the ideal does happen. But what I've found personally, and what I find with most people in the groups, is you are sent home with a diagnosis of something you have never heard of. And you're told to follow up with a gastroenterologist in 6 weeks or so. No information. At best, they give you a one-page diet to follow and maybe throw out some mention of medications that you might try. But you are left with no direction at all. I was told that there was no cure for gastroparesis. I remember the doctor saying that, but I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what the implications of having a chronic illness that would never go away were going to be. Totally unprepared for that mentally. Totally.
Wow. So, okay, so you were diagnosed, and then they kind of maybe gave you a paper or a drug to try or something, and they just said go home and Google it, or
They didn't even tell me that much.
Wow.
They told me, yeah, they told me to go home and follow up with a gastroenterologist in 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I went home. I mean, I knew nothing about it, and I got to the point in the hospital. I was diagnosed in the hospital.
Okay.
I got to the point where I was no longer vomiting nonstop. But when I got home, I started vomiting again nonstop. The pain came back. Had no idea what to do. I was completely lost,
Yeah.
and my only option really was to turn to the internet for information.
Mm-hmm. So when you did that, what was that like? What were you shocked when you started reading about it, or afraid?
I started seeing, just a little bit of information online. There isn't a whole lot of detailed information online, and that's actually when I was doing an internet search, I found a link to an online Facebook gastroparesis support group.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined that thinking, maybe someone there would have some advice for me. And that is where I have gotten my best information. The people in the groups share information about doctors, medications, alternative treatments that have helped them, pretty much everything. And that's where I really learned the most about gastroparesis. Very frightening what I saw. I had no idea people ended up on feeding tubes and IV feedings and surgeries. No idea that any of that was a possibility.
Yeah. How quickly did this come on? Like from the time that you were ill, you had a virus, you said, right? And then to that, how quick was that?
Yeah, mine actually, I'm not typical. Okay, a lot of gastroparesis patients have this develop slowly over time, weeks, months, sometimes even years. I'm not typical in that regard.
Okay.
Mine came on really literally overnight. I was fine one day, and I woke up the next morning to nonstop vomiting, excruciating stomach and abdominal pain. Just could not get a grip on it. And after several hours of this, I headed for the ER, and they admitted me to the hospital. I was actually in the hospital for a week, and at the end of the week, I was diagnosed with gastroparesis.
Okay. Can you die from this?
That's a tough question. GP in and of itself is not necessarily fatal. It is not considered a fatal illness. It is not an automatic death sentence, in other words.
Okay.
Some people get gastroparesis, and they can make some minor changes in their lives, dietary, and they go on just fine. But you can die from the complications of gastroparesis.
Right.
So, a lot of us can't get in the proper nutrition, the proper amount of calories, so we develop, we get dehydrated, we get malnourished, our organs get damaged from that, and, some of us have organ failure, some people actually starve to death. It can be very, very serious, yes.
Yeah. Is gastroparesis painful? And if so, where is the pain usually?
For me, it's painful. That is actually my main symptom now. I'm on a medication which controls my nausea fairly well, but the pain is not controlled. Pain is very intense for me anytime I take even a few bites of food. And for me, the pain starts at the top of my stomach and just sort of radiates down through my abdomen, and it's very intense, very intense. Not everyone with gastroparesis has the pain, but a lot of people do have the pain. I think I was reading a study the other day that said like 72% of the patients reported the stomach and or abdominal pain.
Wow.
So it's pretty common.
Yeah. Do you currently have this disease under control? And what is it like when it's not in control?
I would never say I have this disease under control. Quite honestly, I'm not sure there is any controlling this illness. It's one of the most frustrating things. You never know how you're going to feel from day to day. Some people have very good days. Some people never have a good day. I'm one of those that sort of has constant symptoms, and I just keep them at bay the best that I can. There are days that are better than others for me. On a very, very bad day, it's difficult for me to get out of bed. I'm exhausted, and the pain is just overwhelming. Send you to the floor, curl up in a ball kind of pain. It's very difficult to live with. Very difficult.
You mentioned that you had a very great job. Did you have to quit it pretty quickly, or were you able to keep working when you first got diagnosed?
Actually, when I was working, I actually stopped working when my child was born.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was not working when I developed gastroparesis, but I did think that, when my child was old enough to sort of be on her own and be in school, I would go back to work, and that's just not going to happen. The symptoms are debilitating enough that I do not believe I could hold a job outside of the home.
Yeah, no, I understand that. What misconceptions are there concerning gastroparesis?
I think a lot of people think that it's just a stomach ache. They think that if you go eat some yogurt, eat a little healthier, maybe your symptoms will be under control. They just don't see it as very serious. And I don't think they understand that it is a chronic illness with no cure. They seem to have the impression that, well, you've been sick for 3 weeks now, isn't it about time you felt better? Mm-hmm. It's very hard to get rid of people's false ideas about how this is going to go away in a short period of time. There's also a misconception in terms of medications. People have the idea, if you have an illness, you go to the doctor, you get a medication, and you're fine. Right. And I think people expect that with gastroparesis, and we really don't have very effective treatments.
Mm-hmm. What was it like for your family and friends? Were they supportive? Did anybody tell anybody, what they can do for you to help you best?
My family and friends have been ridiculously supportive. I have a very, very close family, especially my husband and my daughter. They absolutely do whatever they can to help me with chores, with my symptoms. They're very... In fact, I think sometimes they're too cautious around me.
Mm-hmm.
I will find them doing things like my husband and my daughter will sometimes hide to eat because they don't.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to eat in front of me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But we have neighbors who have offered to take my child someplace because I can't get out with her as often as I'd like. Mm-hmm. We have had people cook dinners for my husband and my daughter and bring them over so that they won't be tasked with that. Mm-hmm. This is not the case for a lot of people in the groups. A lot of people in the groups find that their family does not understand this, does not accept this, and they're rejected. And it's really a difficult thing mentally to live with.
I bet. One thing I'm noticing with, with Collination and what I'm learning with everything is as I talk with people with different illnesses or diseases and stuff like that, there's always these things that tie us together. I might have something different than you, but I deal with the depression, not being able to work, losing people in your life because they just don't understand. But we all have that connection. And I think that's a good thing in that way because we can support each other. Even if I might not understand exactly what you have, I understand what it's like living with certain things too. So, and I just really am enjoying learning all these things because I don't know. I think it's just so good that we can be able to talk here and let people and educate people, and maybe inspire and motivate them to learn more so they can make better decisions for themselves with this. What do you think needs to happen in order to get better treatments? Well, I think one of the biggest things that has to happen is we have to get the message out there. Mm-hmm.
There isn't anybody that's going to do it for us, unfortunately. So I think our best bet is to band together and try to get anyone to see we are here, we are struggling, we need help. Mm-hmm. People just aren't aware that we exist. People in the medical world, people in the general public. We need to get that message out. I think that's the first step. And as people hear more about the illness, I think we'll start seeing more of a push for research funds to be directed towards us. I think that doctors will take a bigger interest in learning about our illness and trying to understand what it is that we go through on a daily basis. I am hoping, at least, that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. And, we're going to talk about that in a little bit when we start talking about the groups. I did want to know, are people being misdiagnosed with this?
Yes, they are being misdiagnosed. They're being underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed. It's commonly it's overlooked because you have symptoms that overlap with so many different conditions. All these digestive disorders, they can be pretty similar with their symptoms. Bloating, pain, nausea. That could be any number of things. I know it is commonly misdiagnosed as IBS. I don't personally know a whole lot about IBS, but I hear people all the time who were initially diagnosed with that, and then the diagnosis was changed once they had the gastric emptying study. I think that's part of the problem, that it is misdiagnosed. But I think that also a lot of doctors just don't think of looking for this. Unless you come in contact with a doctor, especially if you're in the ER or something with these symptoms, unless you come in to contact with a doctor who has heard of this and knows something about it, chances are it's going to be a while before you're diagnosed.
Wow. We're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Sam. Say, I just heard about something that might really change your life. What do I mean? Well, you said your mom was having some medical issues, didn't you? And didn't one of your daughter's friends get approached by a stranger in the park last week? Yeah, I remember. Well, you've got to see this new technology. It's a wearable device, kind of like a Fitbit, but this one has wellness monitoring and a safety panic button, among other things. No, I'm not kidding. Look, you can only get this from a sponsor. Check out www.conspiraciesagainstwellness.com and look for David and Dana. They'll take good care of you. Got something to say? Get in on the conversation at 415-915-2291. That's 415-915-CALL-1.
Welcome back to Conspiracies Against Wellness. We're here with Melissa, and we are talking about gastroparesis. We were just talking about being misdiagnosed. And then when I was reading the stats, I think there was like 5 million that aren't being diagnosed. Do you know why that is?
I have read figures all over the board. I have read that there's anywhere from a few 100,000 people with this condition to 14 million people with this condition, and it is just because of what you said. It's that the cases where you are positively diagnosed, where diagnosis is confirmed, are far fewer than what we actually think are out there in the general public. And again, I think it just comes back to a lack of awareness about the symptoms of this condition. I think that doctors and most everybody in the public just are not aware of this.
Are there specialists for gastroparesis, like doctors?
There are motility specialists. They're kind of hard to find sometimes, but yes, there are motility specialists that you can see, and we recommend that to people all the time. Maybe start out with a regular gastroenterologist, but you're probably going to have far better outcomes with a motility specialist.
Are there natural ways to deal with gastroparesis? Like, do you have to do treatments or medications, or is there other things that you can do?
There are a lot of people in our groups who actually go the natural route, and it does help some people significantly. It is not something that has personally helped me very much, but yes, there are a lot that deal with natural remedies of sorts. There's dietary management to begin with. They recommend a low-fat, low-fiber diet and recommend eating several small, very small meals throughout the day rather than a few big ones. A lot of people turn to essential oils and aromatherapy. There are herbal supplements that can help with nausea and pain and inflammation, things like peppermint, ginger, turmeric. There are also a couple of fairly natural products on the market, like Iberogast. Iberogast is a very popular one in our groups. ID Guard is one that just came out recently. People use digestive enzymes and probiotics. Some people find massage helpful, meditation, acupuncture. And acupuncture, actually, there's some evidence that really does help.
Really?
Chiropractors, some people go the chiropractic route, and I've even had people who have tried hypnosis.
Okay, cool. Is there a certain time of the day that your gastroparesis acts up more? Or is it just...
Yes.
Okay, is the onset of when you get sick or a flare, how quickly does that happen? I mean, like, you'll be fine 1 minute and then the next you won't be?
Yeah.
Really?
For me, my worst time of the day is the end of the day. It seems to build up for me. The more I drink and eat, the worse the pain gets.
Okay.
But it's very quick for me, very quick. I can take a few bites of food even that is considered safe, and within minutes I'm in horrendous pain, sometimes nauseous and vomiting, just depending on what kind of a day it is. Some people are the opposite of me. Some people are sickest in the morning when they first wake up. But for me, it's the end of the day, and it seems to kind of build up over time.
How do you remain so hopeful and positive dealing with this?
Oh my goodness, that's a really good question. I will tell you that when I was first diagnosed, that was not the case for me. I really thought that I was going to die. I thought there was no hope for this, that there was nothing that was ever going to make me feel better. I fought it every step of the way. I refused to accept it and just found myself, sinking deeper and deeper. And it finally just occurred to me that, my choices were to either go deeper down in that abyss or pull myself up and say, this is the way things are now, and you have to find a way to go on. And, once I kind of accepted that this illness was here and it wasn't going to go away, and my thought process turned to how am I going to have the best life possible given my current set of circumstances, things really started to turn around for me. I had to make a conscious decision that even though I couldn't maybe have the life that I had planned and my previous goals, I could still have a life that was meaningful and significant. I kind of mourned that old life and moved on. And quite honestly, the groups have helped me do that a lot. I find meaning in working with the people in there and trying to help everyone who is struggling with this cruel illness.
Well, you've been through a lot of challenges since being diagnosed. What coping skills can you share with others that are newly diagnosed, or I don't know, maybe there's something that you do that somebody didn't think of?
Yeah, I would say that accepting where you are is probably the most important thing. You have to forgive yourself for not being able to do absolutely everything that you were able to do before diagnosis. You're going to be tired. You're going to tire more easily. You're going to feel sick. And you have to just accept that you do as much as you can when you can do it. And I think that helps a lot, getting rid of stress. And that does take some stress off of you when you accept that you're just not going to be able to do some things at some times. I think that rids you of a lot of stress. Stress can make this worse. There's no doubt about that. So I would say that's a good way to get past some of this. Not giving up in finding a doctor. A lot of people will go to one doctor and he will tell them, there's nothing I can do for you. and they sort of accept that, and you can't do that.
Right.
You really have to keep looking until you find a doctor who is willing to work with you and who knows something about this condition, and you try everything you can. And if one thing fails, you keep trying other things, because you will hit on something that improves you. It may not make you completely well or symptom-free, but you will find a medication or a combination of medicines that will help you get through this a little better than you are right now.
Mm-hmm. Please tell me a little bit more about your support groups you've created. Why are these groups so important?
Yeah, I have quite a few online support and advocacy groups that I have either started or I administrate. Mm-hmm. And, oh my goodness, they have been everything to me. I was totally lost before the groups. They are a source of information to begin with. We share all sorts of tips about how to cope, get through the day. We share medications, information on medications, not medications.
No, I know.
We share tips on how to find a doctor, what good doctors are out there, what doctors are in your area. But more than that, I think it's that we really care about each other. You know, we understand each other. Mm-hmm. We just know going into the group, everybody here has experienced what I've experienced at some point or another, and they know what I'm talking about when I say it. There's no explaining myself to them. They already understand. They get it, and we support each other. You know, sometimes you go into the groups and you just want to vent. People call it venting. You know, you just want to go in there and I'm having a horrible day and I feel awful. And, you know, 50 people will comment under your post. I'm really sorry. You know, I'm praying for you. I'm wishing you well. And it's very helpful to have that kind of support system around you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything, because I know earlier we were talking about, I asked, you know, if you go to the doctor, do they give you information on it? You know, do you guys have anything like a database that you've created with, you know, like what maybe you can do or places to look for stuff? Is there anything like that anywhere?
In the groups, I've actually created quite a few files, and some of the members have too, with diet tips, tips on how to find and how to find a doctor and how to talk to your doctor once you've found them. We have a list of other support groups. You know, I try to maintain a list of all the support groups I know about. We have, you know, tips on dental care. We actually have a Facebook group where the lady who did create it, which isn't me, but the lady who created it keeps a list of doctors that people recommend as far as gastroparesis treatment, and updates that list regularly. So we try to send people there if they're in search of a doctor. We have quite a few things that we hope help with most situations.
You have a group called Fighting for a Change, and it teaches the individual how to advocate for themselves. What does this actually mean, and what have you been doing within this group to raise awareness?
Yeah, Fighting for Change is my advocacy group. It's, you know, I'm sorry, it's my favorite. I'm an advocate, so it's my favorite.
I think it's great, by the way.
Thank you. We actually started it as a way to get our information out to the outside world, to spread awareness for the community in general and advocate for the community in general. But what we found after we started working with people in the groups is that people really need help also advocating for themselves. As I said, they come out of the doctor and they don't have any information about gastroparesis. They don't know the first step to take. So we have tried to help them see that they can find information about this. They can present information about this to their doctor. About, you know, we try to give them tips on how to talk to their doctor, on what sort of treatments and options are available to them so that they can take those to their doctor and say, hey, I heard about this. Can we discuss it? We try to inform them about pertinent legislation that might be coming up for our community, and a lot of times I will put up a petition or a template for sending a letter to your congressman to try to support a certain bill or program that we know is coming up. One of the things, basically, we try to teach people to stand up for themselves.
Right.
You know, you have say over your life. You have control, even though it may not be much. You do what you can to control your situation. And one of the big pushes that we've started is to get state awareness proclamations in place. That's probably been one of our major focuses the last 2.5 years or so that the group has existed.
What will that do?
The first year, well, we're hoping that we have a national awareness proclamation. We have actually been added to the NHO calendar of events, and August is officially nationally Gastroparesis Awareness Month. That was thanks to one of our organizations that sort of got that into place. So what we're hoping is that we can get an awareness month or week or day in each state also, just for recognition, just for credibility to some extent. You know, we're here and we want you to know we're here and we're not going away. But also I find that people can use that awareness proclamation to hold fundraisers for some of our organizations. They can use it to contact the media to get articles about gastroparesis run. They can do all sorts of awareness events in their local area, and in fact, they can even take that proclamation to their state-level legislatures and ask for some sort of official event. It's sort of up to them how they want to use it. To give you an example, when I got mine last year, I went to my daughter's school and said, hey, did you know, this week is Gastroparesis Awareness Week in Indiana. Any chance I could come and speak to your school? And they let me do that. They let me speak to their 7th and 8th grade classes and actually talked about putting a segment about gastroparesis in their health curriculum.
That's
so
great.
There's all sorts of ways you can use it. Yeah.
So what future plans do you have or goals that you want to do for these groups and beyond that? If in the perfect world, what do you want to see happen? And what are you going to do?
Wow. Well, we want to see the group grow, of course, because with advocacy, it is to a large extent a numbers game. The more people you have backing you, signing your petitions, sending in letters to Congress, lobbying medical associations and that sort of thing, the better off you are. So, of course, we want to grow. We also want to, we have a big push on right now for a bill called H.R. 1187.
Okay.
It is the Functional Gastrointestinal and Motility Disorders Research Enhancement Act of 2017. Yeah, H.R. 1187.
Yeah.
And
what is
it
that
has
exactly?
been introduced into the House.
Okay.
It's a bill that would give us some expanded research, some money for research, and it would also establish some education centers so that we could get information into the hands of the public and medical professionals much more easily. It has been introduced in previous sessions of Congress and really hasn't gone anywhere. But we're hoping that over time, more and more awareness of that bill will be generated and we can actually get it to move out of subcommittee. It is in the health subcommittee right now, and we are trying to get that out. So that is one of our big pushes. We hope to someday, if not this session, someday get that bill passed. We also want to focus on more state-level activities. The Fighting for Change group, we actually have some state branches attached to it, but they're very, very small, and we would like to see those grow because we think it's important for people in the same area to connect with each other and sort of build those local relationships, not just for awareness purposes, but for support purposes.
Right.
If you need to go to the doctor and you don't have a ride, well, I know Sue is in my group. Maybe Sue can take me to the doctor. And we really love to see that happen because we're in a situation where we don't get a lot of outside help and we need to help each other. And we're hoping that some of those projects can take off as well.
Is there anyone like famous or big that has this that would be willing to stand up and say, like with Michael J. Fox, he has Parkinson's. Is there anybody like that with gastroparesis?
There is no celebrity I am aware of that has this condition or who is at least willing to admit that they have this condition.
Okay.
We are not aware of any celebrities, and we do have people who search for that sort of thing all the time. We have received some national attention recently. There is actually a contestant on the show Big Brother who has gastroparesis.
Raven,
and she has
right?
mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Miss Raven. And a man has started, one of the gentlemen in our groups has started a GP pie face challenge that has gone national. ESPN has actually covered that. They did a segment on it, and it was just incredible. So we have had a little bit of national attention, but no one person or celebrity that really goes to bat for us.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about the pie face thing. So, so that will raise money for gastroparesis then, if you do that, and because it's like the ACL challenge, correct? That ice bucket thing.
That's the idea behind it. That's sort of what they're hoping for. I think the biggest hope is that it will just increase awareness.
Right.
If we get some donations and research money out of that, that's fabulous. But I think the biggest thing is to actually just get the information out there.
Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to donate towards gastroparesis, where do they do that, and where does that go?
Well, we have a few organizations that I could direct people to. I can give you my personal preferences if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah.
One of our organizations is called the IFFGD.
Okay.
And they are at www.iffgd.org.
Okay.
And then another organization that I actually volunteer for, and Miss Laura volunteers for, Miss Laura, who will be on tomorrow, is the AGMD.
Okay.
And they are at www.agmd-gimotility.org.
Okay. Did you give me these, by the way? Because I know I put.
Yes, I think you have them up on the website.
Okay, yeah, because people could also just look at the website under you as guest, and then we'll be okay. What? All right. Sorry. If someone wants to take Brian was trying to show me something, I couldn't read it. If someone wants to take or help to take a more active role in this, how do they do this?
Well, they can certainly contact me. I'm on every social media site out there, I think. We have a website at www.curegp.com where they can also find links to projects that we have going on, support groups, organizations, blogs, and all sorts of things that might help them. As far as getting involved in advocacy, we welcome them to join the Fighting for Change group. And we will help them either start projects or be involved in projects. We're always looking for ideas to help spread awareness. We actually have an event coming up on August 17th. That event is from 5 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we are asking people to do just sort of what you said at the beginning of the show, light a green candle or a glow stick or, turn on a green bulb, whatever you have, and post the pictures or the live feed of that on Facebook and other social media sites on August 17th between 5 to 8 p.m. Central.
Okay.
And we're hoping that will raise some awareness, too. We think that's something anybody could get involved in. I think the main thing is just tell your story. Get it out there. I know it's hard at first, but the more you can tell what you're going through to family, to friends, to anybody out there in the public, the better off we'll be, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we also put it up on our website. If you go under events, you'll be able to see that event as well. And I believe we put it on all of our social media stuff as well. I think that's wonderful what you're doing. You have a book coming out shortly. When is that coming out? And what's the name of it again? And can you please tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it is called Real Life Diaries, Living with Gastroparesis, And the real author of the book is Linda Fell. She's the award-winning author, and she's the one with all the skills. She's also the author of the Grief Diaries. So this is sort of a new series for her, the Real Life Diaries, dealing with chronic illnesses and some other areas. I actually approached her about the project, and she thought it would be a wonderful idea, and we recruited some people from our support groups to also contribute stories to the book. That is basically what the book is. It is all of us telling our stories, telling what we live through, what are some of the things that we do to cope with our condition, some of the treatments we've tried, just kind of get a better idea out there of what it is like to live with this disease on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. The book is scheduled to be released this Friday, August 18th, and it will be available on Amazon, maybe some other places too, but I know it will be on Amazon.
Okay, wonderful. What is the one thing or most important thing you want everyone to take away from today on gastroparesis?
Well, in terms of awareness, I hope that people will understand that we are a community that is very much struggling. Mm-hmm. This is a difficult illness to live with. It is a life-altering, sometimes life-threatening illness, and we need help. Yeah. We need better treatments. We need a cure. For the people with gastroparesis who are listening, I hope that what they take away from this is that I know this is a struggle, but your life can still have meaning, and you are still worth something. You have value, and there is help out there for you. We are here to help you if you need it, and you are never alone.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
I think that's probably my basic message, that I hope people feel like there is somewhere they can turn if they need information or need help. And I hope that they're not afraid to share information with others out there. Tell your story. Tell your story to your doctor, to your family, to your friends, and don't be afraid to put it out there, because there are people who do understand, and there are people who do care, and if you're willing to accept the help, you will find it out there. Mm-hmm.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on Call Nation today. I have such a high level of admiration and respect for all the amazing work you are doing within the gastroparesis community, and I'm just so thankful I've had the opportunity to meet you and learn more about this disease. You're a trooper for having this for such a short time. You're doing really amazing things.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm grateful to you for having me on call today and for spreading awareness of gastroparesis for our community. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm just honored to have you on. Also, we will be streaming live again at 7 Central tonight, just for our audience to let them know. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and again, thank you for coming on. Tomorrow evening, we will be live at 7 Central with guest Laura Schmidt, and I just want to say thanks for tuning in today, and have a great day, Call Nation.
You've been listening to Conspiracies Against Wellness with Janelle Elgaway. Join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern to get in on the conversation. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and callers, and not necessarily those of EXG LLC, its employees or sponsors. I'm David Schiff.
Copyright 2017 by EXG LLC. All rights reserved.